We have another Craigslist video lined up, and last time we touched on a few good ads mixed in with the bad ones. You guys seem to feel okay about that, but a lot of you watch these videos because you want to see the terrible stuff. You want to see me rip into it, talk about what I would pay for especially like extremely old used hardware, and that's all we're going to do in this video. I have about 4 or 5 terrible ads lined up, and I gave you guys a taste of this on Twitter yesterday if you follow me there. So without further ado, we're going to get started off here with this one, $800, powerful gaming PC. I don't know what these people think when they list these ads, but like, in my opinion, this guy's wasting his time. All right, cut to the intro and then a word from our sponsor, and we'll be back to this stuff. Stay tuned.
We're asking people on the street, would you rather have the car on the right or the car on the left, which comes with the Meshify S2?
Is that a serious question? I'm taking this one.
There you have it. People prefer the Meshify S2.
So what we have here, powerful gaming PC, $800. Now, what made me click on this ad was not the fact that he was wanting $800 for a powerful gaming PC. You can find plenty of those on Craigslist, and frankly, a lot of them are decent deals. But for $800, I expect a lot more than what I see in this opening picture here. First off, I see dust everywhere. I have no idea what kind of CPU cooler. So it looks like some like classic Zalman cooler. Not terrible looking, but it does look quite bad when you've got dust caked into it as much as this guy has. We have a GTX 580 that is ancient by today's standards, also looks fairly dusty. And then we have these are cringeworthy Molex to PCIe power adapters. It's not looking too great, but he's definitely trying to sell it, so let's check out what he says here. Too much to list. Message me if you have any specific questions. Just taking offers at this point. 3.8 to 4.2 gigahertz, Asus Crossfire 5 Formula Z. I don't know why you'd list the CPU frequency before you list the CPU. You're talking about two different things here. Anyway, FX 4100 processor, and he says easily overclockable to 4.2, never needed to go for higher. Well, I'm sure you didn't, buddy. 16 gigs of RAM, DDR3, obviously 2133, 1 terabyte WD Black. He's got a G600 Logitech mouse, NVIDIA GTX 580 aftermarket case. Doesn't say what kind of case. We can see a few pictures there though, and then loaded with Time 7 Plus, big fans with red LEDs, several aftermarket fans, and heatsink. So he's definitely trying to sell you on the RGB aspect of this build, and anyone who's dabbled in the used market of PCs knows that RGB does help sell most computers. First off, the FX platform is virtually dead. You can get Ryzen CPUs on the used market for around $50-$60. That'll blow the FX 4100 out of the water. You might even get Ryzen CPUs cheaper than that, depending on where you look, who you buy them from. I wouldn't pay more than $10 for an FX 4100, and I'm being dead serious about that. The 16 gigs of RAM is nice. DDR3, not DDR4. Again, this is the platform we have to deal with. But 16 gigs is, I'd pay upwards of $60 or so for DDR3 16 gigs worth, and that's probably overpaying, but given how DRAM prices have fluctuated recently, I'd say that's an okay offer there. So right now we're at $100, right, for the CPU, motherboard, and RAM. He wants $800, so we got to come up with $700 somewhere else in this list here of components. The GTX 580, honestly, not worth very much. I wouldn't pay more than $40-$50 for that, and I would only pay that much just because I'd like to have something that vintage on the shelf for testing in the future, but I would never use it as a serious gaming card. Only a 2 gig buffer. It's not going to be a lot for some modern 1080p gaming even, and that's why I hesitate to even make an offer on this PC. So yeah, I'm feeling maybe $200 to $250 for this rig, which is a fourth of what this guy's asking. And then on top of it, it just doesn't look like it was taken care of, and the parts are very, very out of date. So yeah, that's my verdict on that one. I'd pay about a fourth of what this gentleman is asking. On to the next build. This is custom gaming PC with NVIDIA GeForce 1070 graphics card. Okay, a GTX 1070 is good. He's got a monitor MEC 850, right? But here's the problem. 3.2 gigahertz Sandy Bridge Intel processor. Okay, I have no idea what processor that is. Okay, Sandy Bridge, that's great, but what are we talking here? Core i5, Core i7? If it was a Core i7, I feel like he would state that, which is why I'm not going to give him the benefit of the doubt and assume it's a Core i7. I'm going to assume it's a Core i5. And then 256 gig SSD, 2 1TB hard drives, 8 gigs of RAM. I love he says, performance RAM. And then a Cooler Master case. I don't know what Cooler Master case this is, but it looks like it was built in the early 2000s. And then comes with a 27-inch 1080p monitor, Logitech G710 keyboard. That's great, but it's not going to add much to the price here. He's got a smart 750 watt Thermaltake power supply. Again, not looking too juicy here. Cable management is kind of blah, but I can't really blame him because the case doesn't look like it's very easy with which to manage cables. So starting price here, $850. Yeah, I'm not seeing that at all. Let's say GTX 1070. Let's give them $250 for it. I bought GTX 1070s on eBay for as little as $200, and this is a super clock EVGA card, so it's nothing super fancy. These typically go for between $2 and $260 on eBay, so let's say $250. Let's give them the upper end. $250. Let's assume a Core i5 Sandy Bitch processor. I don't know if it's overclockable or not. He doesn't say what kind of motherboard he's sporting, but it doesn't look like a very high-end motherboard either. This one's tough. It's a tough call. I'm going to assume it's a locked processor and that is not a Z series chipset. It doesn't look like it is, and that would lead me to assume that the CPU is going to be worth maybe on the used market $100 at most, and then maybe another $40 for the motherboard. God, that's a stretch too. So 140 plus 250. Let's call it an even 400. He's got a Hyper 212 Evo, is what it looks like. So another $20 used for that. So what are we at? 420, and then 8 gigs of RAM. Gonna be DDR3, so $40. 460. He's got 256 gig SSD, $50. Well, used, I'd pay 40 if that. Let's say 40. Heck, I'm just splitting hairs here. $500. 2 1TB hard drives. I would pay 50 for the pair. So what are we at? Near 550. I'm sure I'm doing some of this math wrong. I'm just kind of spitting out numbers, but we're around 5 to 550 here. A 27-inch 1080p monitor. He doesn't say what refresh rate it is. I'm going to assume it's trash. Otherwise, he probably would have stated it. So cheap 1080p monitor. Wouldn't pay more than 50, $60 for. So we're at $550 in the $600 price range when you include the mechanical keyboard, assuming you even want to pay for that. And yeah, the asking price is $850. So I definitely start much lower than this. The 1070 is cool, but a lot of this older hardware is difficult to flip and also difficult to use with some modern games, especially if you plan on buying this strictly for gaming. So in my opinion, I would start at $400 and just see if he's even willing to entertain an offer close to that amount, because I wouldn't go a dollar over $500 for this. And even that's a stretch. I'm not even sure I want to pay $500 for this. I think I'd hold firm at $400. Knowing that he would probably end up turning it down. But hey, that's what you get when you ask way too much for a build that is several years old, save the graphics card. And the next one is a gaming PC for $1,800. What made me click on this one was I noticed that it wasn't custom cooled. It looked like a typical Pascal card, you know, an okay CPU cooler, and then a fairly, you know, run-of-the-mill case from Corsair. It looks like the 460X or the 400C in white. So, we're just going to run through the specs here. Let's see. GTX 1080 Founders Edition. I wouldn't pay more than $300. I've gotten GTX 1080s for $300. So for a Founders card, let's say 320. 320, okay? And then a 250 gig SSD, another $30-$40. So 320. Let's make it 350, 360. 800 watt power supply. No idea what kind of power supply. It's probably run of the mill again. So let's call it 400 even. 16 gigs of DDR4. That's going to be used $80. And that's probably a save. We don't know what kind of DDR4 it is, what kind of 16 gig kit it is, but let's say $80 for that. So that's $480. Asus motherboard, $50, 60. Again, I don't know. Like, you're not detailing the parts, so I don't know what to offer you. And that's the problem when you don't list the specifics with these components, and I don't know how good or bad they are, and I'm going to assume the worst, because who in their right mind would just vaguely list the name of parts if they spent hundreds of dollars on it? They were genuinely good parts. Let's see, this is my gaming PC I built, and I rarely play it anymore. I absolutely love this thing, but money is low as of right now, but the specs are, and then he lists the specs that we just went through. So I'm struggling to even reach $1,000 on this build, my dude, and you want $1,800 for it. The parts right now, especially on the used market, are nowhere near this expensive. And this last one here, at the X58 Xeon, I'll have to call Brian in for this one, RX 480 gaming PC, $700. Selling a gaming PC perfect for Fortnite, PUBG, Ark, Rainbow Six Siege, Destiny, GTA 5, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Comes with a Xeon E5520 quad-core hyper-threaded CPU. We'll talk more about that in a second. XFX AMD RX 480 8GB GPU, 16 gigs of mixed DDR3. Okay. Goldfer, never even heard of that before. Goldfer 128 gig SSD paired with a 300 gigabyte mechanical hard drive. Only a 3. Geez, this is an old system. I mean, clearly from the picture, but he's like pairing some old stuff with some new components, including that graphics card. This is going to be a little weird. And then the power supply is a Corsair CX450M semi-modular 80 plus bronze 450 watt power supply. Comes with 10 free games already installed. Would make for a good late Christmas present for a kid. Yeah, because I think a kid is the only like person who's going to spend $700 on the system. That's probably why you said that. Asking $700 firm. This guy's in for a rude awakening. All right, E5520 CPU. Let's cut right to that real quick. This is, of course, a Xeon. It is actually based on the Nihilum architecture, which was launched back in 2009, which makes this a 10-year-old CPU. It has a very, very low frequency. Operating frequency at its base is 2.26 gigahertz, a turbo frequency of up to 2.53 gigahertz, and I believe that is only on one core. So not only do we have ancient architecture, 45 nanometer lithography, but we also have a low frequency. This CPU is the definition of a bottleneck when it comes to pretty much any game that's relatively modern on Steam or Origin or wherever. This is my thinking. He bought this card maybe a year and a half ago when they were fairly expensive, when the mining craze was approaching its peak. He probably paid $300 to $400 for it, and he found out that he couldn't flip it for that much. So he decided to throw it into a super cheap workstation PC from 10 years ago and hope that he could flip the whole thing, and try to get all of his initial investment back from the graphics card. Maybe he got the workstation for free, and that's his thinking, and he put like a cheap power supply that you could buy from Amazon for like $30 in it. That's my thinking. Now, he says that it's perfect for Fortnite, PUBG, Ark, Rainbow Six Siege, Destiny, GTA 5, etc. That's a load of crap. I wouldn't pay a dime over 10 to 20 bucks for the Xeon CPU, and that would be, again, just for kicks and giggles, because I would end up just fiddling with it for science. But I would under no circumstance try to flip this as a gaming PC, and then on top of that try to get it sold for $700. That just leaves a nasty taste in the mouth. So yeah, rant's over now. I gotta calm down a little bit after these. These were pretty bad. I mean, what scares me more is that people still might find builds like this and say, oh, these must be perfectly valid for gaming. Why else would this person ask $700 for this rig if it wasn't good? And that's what I'm afraid of. That's one of the reasons why these videos exist. The other reason is because you guys just genuinely like, checking out old hardware and seeing me roast some of this stuff. So avoid these at all costs. I would not put my stamp of approval on any of them. And frankly, this last one here is just insulting. Like, trying to pass this off as a gaming PC is downright disgusting. You're gonna fool some kid. It's exactly what you said you wanted to do, was you wanted to sell it to some kid, or at least sell it to a parent who would give it to a kid, and assume the parent has no idea what he's buying into. Because this is not a gaming PC, and the only people you could possibly fool into thinking this was a gaming PC are kids. Anyway, what do you guys think about these builds? Leave a comment down below, and then you can also link your own Craigslist, Facebook Marketplace, Let Go finds, whatever. You can send those to me either via Twitter. You can send them on Facebook Messenger. I don't recommend you guys email this to me. We have filters for that kind of stuff, so if they come from just generic Gmail addresses or anything like that, I might not see it. We try to save the business email for business inquiries. But if you do have a few that you want to show off, send them to me on Facebook. I have the Facebook link down below. You can also tweet me on Twitter, and that's another place where I'm pretty active, and usually I respond fairly quick. My phone's always on me. And then yeah, we'll look forward to the next one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. Let me know if you did. Give this video a thumbs up if you did. I appreciate that. Click that red subscribe button for more content, science, or just fun like this, and we'll catch you in the next video. This is Science Studio. Thanks for cringing with us.